Welcome to Relay USA's Survivor and Caregiver Ceremony 2023. It's one of the many reasons we relay, to honor our loved ones, our survivors and caregivers. Our survivors. Cancer survivors are living proof that we're making a difference in the fight against cancer. They've endured days of illness, of medical appointments and tears, yet they're here with us today as we honor their crusade against this disease. And our caregivers. Caregivers are often the unsung heroes in the journey of a cancer patient. They're a constant source of strength, encouragement, and most of all, support. If you're a survivor or caregiver joining us tonight, please post in the comments so we can cheer you on. To get our ceremony started this evening is a poem by leadership team member Sarah Thornbaugh.
Hope. H is for honor, honoring the survivors, honoring the caregivers. O is for offering, the many services offered to cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers. P is for perseverance, relayers coming together to persevere for one cause. E is for endurance, relayers, survivors, and caregivers coming together to endure long hours running, walking, strolling to make a difference in their communities so that one day no one will ever have to hear these three words again. There is hope for all. Hope.
Sarah, thank you so much for sharing that wonderful, inspiring poem here with us tonight. Now I would like to introduce Class of 2023 Global Hero Hope and Event Leadership Team member Christina Doe to share her experience as a caregiver.
In 1997, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Back then, it was considered a very rare form. We knew nothing about the American Cancer Society, and we knew nothing about her form of cancer. As we were starting through her diagnosis, we began to discuss about family history. As we were asked, "What's your family history?" And we didn't know. Well, I didn't know. As we were having that discussion, I found out that my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, had passed away in 1978 with lung and colon cancer. I also found out that in the mid-1980s, my maternal grandmother had been diagnosed with breast cancer. She didn't have any treatment, and really, we didn't know anything about it. Back in 1978, you didn't talk about cancer. It was the C word. In the 80s, you maybe heard it talked about, but it was hushed and it was quiet, and it was kind of that silent disease. In 1989, she passed away from what we believe was ovarian cancer. The diagnosis was in process, and obviously she had no treatment and there was no discussion about it. It still is not known whether or not she officially had ovarian cancer, but we do know now the correlation between breast cancer and ovarian cancer. So then in 1997, when my mom was diagnosed, she knew about her grandparents' diagnoses. We didn't think that it had anything to do with hers until a few years later, and we learned a little more about her breast cancer and cancer in general. We still didn't know what the American Cancer Society was until I saw an article in the newspaper in 1999 that talked about this event that was happening called Relay for Life. And Relay for Life was associated with the American Cancer Society. So I thought, okay, my mom has cancer. American Cancer Society has the word cancer in it, so they must have something to do with each other. Also, at that point, I'm starting to get a little angry at cancer. In about 2000, we thought that my mom was going into remission. But about 2001, shortly after I had read that article, we found out that her cancer marker numbers were going up. I don't know what those numbers were. We didn't know at the time what that meant. But as things started happening, we started to learn a little more about what cancer marker numbers were. She was having her monthly scans after her blood work would come back with cancer numbers going up. but they couldn't find any cancer in her body. Her scans were clear. There was no um, cancer found in her body on any of the scans. But each month, those cancer marker numbers would go up. And each month, it would come back with no cancer found. I got angry at that because there had to have been something going on. Why were her cancer numbers going up? Why was she more tired? They did decide to go ahead and start her on a chemo regimen, hoping that that would help her cancer marker numbers go down. Well, unfortunately, they didn't. They continued to rise and still never found any cancer in her body. Unfortunately, in 2002, my mom lost her battle. We found out later that her body was actually full of cancer. The cells were small, they weren't seen on the scans, but that's what the numbers kept telling us, is that she had cancer in her body. They did find a larger tumor that was near her aorta, and so that was probably the only place that they could have claimed that they might have found it. Well, continued to get angry at cancer. Cancer had taken my mom away too early. Cancer also didn't help us understand what was going on with her. It was kind of that silent, hidden item, sort of like back in the 70s and 80s, that silent, hidden word that you didn't talk about. In 1999, I saw this article and I reached out to try and get involved with Relay for Life. And after a couple of years, in 2001, I finally got involved. And I found that as a way to channel my anger and to do something good, something productive and helpful that I thought could help other people in this journey called cancer that I really didn't know anything about. The one thing that I did think about was, how could I help somebody else? How could I help them learn about the American Cancer Society that I didn't have any idea what it was? How could I help my daughter not have a breast cancer diagnosis? And as the years went on and I got more and more involved with the American Cancer Society, I found out how important research is and that research has helped to advance medications and treatments way beyond what it was in 1997. The day that my mom passed away, the doctor came and asked me if we would consider donating her body to research. Again, I didn't really know what that was. I knew research was important because I worked for a university and we did a lot of research. So I knew that was an important aspect. But I also knew that we had many family members that would have wanted to have a chance to say goodbye to my mom. She passed away very suddenly. We didn't know that was going to take place. Not that anybody always knows when they're going to pass away, but we wanted to have that opportunity for family and friends to say their goodbyes. So I offered the opportunity for them to take some tissue and some cells that they could then use at the research institution to maybe help somebody else. And so they did that. And in a way, I feel like that is my mom having an opportunity to still be part of the Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society, and having had that hand in research and advancing some of those treatment options and some of those medications forward so that other people would have an opportunity to survive their cancer. And I feel like the more and more that I hear people that are surviving and thriving through breast cancer diagnoses, that my mom had that hand in helping them. And I fully believe that. And I think she would believe that as well. And so that helps me remember the importance in research. And I'm very, very focused on that important research that helps other cancer patients live, survive, and thrive through their cancer diagnosis. Getting involved with Relay for Life has helped me channel that anger into something good. It's helped me to meet people who have had similar diagnoses as my mom and know that they are still here today. And it also has helped me connect with other caregivers that maybe have been in a similar situation as me and didn't know where to turn. didn't know about the American Cancer Society. And hopefully, I have been able to help teach people what the American Cancer Society is and how important we all are in the fight against cancer. My name is Christelle. I'm a 26 plus year cancer caregiver, and I'm still caregiving, even though my survivor is no longer here, because I feel it's important to support others, support other caregivers, and support survivors who may not have a caregiver immediately available to them. I'm also a voice of hope, and I'm a global hero of hope. And I appreciate you being here tonight and listening to my story. And I hope that someday you will share your story too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for sharing your inspiring story with us tonight. And thank you so much for all that you do and continue to do as a caregiver. To all the caregivers and survivors joining us tonight, please share your story with us in the comments. Now, let's recognize and honor our Relay USA caregivers and survivors.